Hey friends! Alright, I'm coming at you from the motel. This is now our 4th week of being here. Felt like I should channel my Stevie because I'm basically living Schitt's Creek. This is my life right now. We're going to be moving on Saturday. Super excited. But today I want to pop on here and answer a question that I received last week, which I thought was so good. If you guys let me talk about the motel, I can do that. I just feel like it's not very interesting, but if you want to, I can always tell you about that. But I had this question, I think it was last week. Everything is in chaos, you guys. Living in a motel and trying to moving to a new city it's great and also super chaotic. So last week, someone was asking me about how I figured out, what was the question? How did you come to find yourself as a productivity coach? What helped you know that was the type of coach you were meant to be? And I think that this is such a great question, and this is probably something that a lot of you are wondering about. There's a lot of talk about niches and that kind of thing in the industry, like in the online coaching world, and the business industry in general. Trying to figure out the right fit for you can be challenging, to say the least. So I wanted to pop on here and just kind of explain how I got into this business, because I've now had my own business for 10 or 12 years at this point, and I've shifted gears into productivity very specifically just within the last 2 years, although I was actually teaching about productivity for quite a few years before that and just didn't even quite realize it. So I thought that it might be helpful for you if I sort of share about that, and also some advice around how you can figure out your niche as well. So this is kind of specific if you're in sort of the coaching, consulting, teaching sort of world, but I definitely think that this can still apply to you regardless of your particular type of situation and the work that you do. I think that this will still be helpful. So, all right. Let's get into this. Okay, so first of all, this question is a good one, but I also want to sort of clarify something. So the question is about how I became a productivity coach, but coaching is actually just one piece of what I do. I don't really consider my clients will call me different things, and I'm totally cool with that. I don't really mind what you call me. But personally, I don't feel comfortable only calling myself a coach, because that's just one small piece of what I do. I find that it's much more effective for my clients when I use a hybrid method of coaching, consulting, and teaching. So that's why I call myself a productivity strategist, because the work that I do is really this hybrid model, so that I work with you, I help you identify what you actually want to figure out about your business and how to figure out how your business can support your life. And then I can also give you recommendations around specific tactics that you can use. But I'm not just directing you to here's a tactic and you must use this. That's not my approach. I will explore different techniques and concepts with you, and then we'll find the right one together. And likewise, I don't just do the coaching sort of thing, which tends to be very much you have all the answers, you figure everything out on, we'll guide you through this process and then you figure it out. That's why I like having the consultant part in there as well, because I find that it's just so much more effective. That's just me. That's also how my brain works, right? So in Clifton Strengths, if any of you have done that before, my number one Clifton Strengths is strategic, and four out of my top 5, and I can't remember how many of my top 10, 4 out of my top 5 are in the strategic domain. So my brain is really in a strategic sort of lens, and as a result, it just makes so much more sense. This is how my brain works, and so this is how I can best show up to clients when I use this kind of hybrid method. And again, that's not necessarily going to be the right fit for you and for your particular type of coaching or consulting or whatever it happens to be, but this is the best way that I can work with my clients and get them the best results possible. So that's just some clarification there. Okay, so how this kind of started, as a lot of you know, I started out as a freelance writer back 10 or 12 years ago. I was actually a health blogger in the beginning, and I began doing a lot of different freelance writing. I began also doing a lot of speaking engagements, which like had never been something that I was initially planning to do. But I ended up like getting this freelance job working for a fruit sharing organization, and I ended up teaching workshops for them. And then I continued on in sort of that health sector. So I was teaching a lot of workshops for people, specifically around like eating local foods and that kind of thing. And I was doing some PR at the time as well, so like writing press releases and stuff like that. That was one of my really big freelancing gigs was with that. And I was doing all kinds of different freelance work. And it got to the point where a lot of other aspiring freelancers started asking me, how are you even doing this? Like, I want to work for myself as well. I want to have my own business. I want to work from home full time. I just don't know how to do it because it feels really overwhelming. So that's when I like wrote wrote my first book, The Business of Writing and Editing, Practical Tips and Templates for New Freelancers. Still available to this day. If you visit sagamore.com/books, you can still grab your copy. It's still really good, a lot of evergreen content, so you should totally grab it. But I wrote that book, and people loved it, but they also wanted a lot more, right? They wanted like a lot more sort of supplementary type of things. So that's when I began that's when I created my very first online course. So this was back in like 2016 that I created my first online course, and everything kind of went from there. So I was able to really help a lot of freelancers through teaching these courses about how to start your own freelance business, how to work from home effectively, how to build your freelance business, and all that kind of thing. But it was very general in that sense, right? It wasn't specifically productivity that I was teaching people. It was a lot of general business, general foundations of freelancing, working from home in general, all of that kind of stuff. The working from home stuff that has become obviously huge in the last year and a half, that stuff is where I started teaching people. And so at that point, I was having a lot of fun with it, and I was getting good results, but it was also interesting because like the best results that my clients were getting by going through my courses and that kind of thing were to feel more organized, feel a lot more focused, having a lot more clarity around their business ideas, really understanding their goals, reducing overwhelm, getting out of burnout, all of that kind of stuff. And all of that is really related to productivity and time management, right? So this was kind of interesting that even at that point, I was teaching about a lot of different concepts related to business, but I was most effective at getting client results related to productivity stuff. And I also enjoyed the productivity side of things the most. It was the stuff that I love. Like, I actually just found a blog post that I had written like years ago, back when I first started teaching online courses. And it was specifically about like 10 productivity tips. And I remember that like at the time, I loved productivity, and it didn't occur to me that I could just focus on productivity. But the other sort of side of it, so that's kind of like one of the ways that I began coaching about productivity specifically, because that's what people were asking me about, right? That's what they were getting the best results for, and that's what I was enjoying the most. But the other side of it is that I was also digging really, really deeply into creating my own methodologies around productivity, because I am extremely multi-passionate, right? I love doing all of these different things in my business. I have a lot of different creative ideas. And so because of that, because I wanted to do all these different things, I was constantly searching for ways to improve my own productivity, to improve my own time management abilities, so that I could be able to actually do it all. And so that was a really big thing around choosing to focus on productivity and really niching down, because I was just doing so much of my own research and my own development of these different methodologies that it really made a lot of sense. And at that sort of time, like as things were kind of progressing, I was also dealing with like a lot of mental health stuff, right? So trying to figure out how to manage my anxiety, my chronic anxiety, chronic nightmare disorder, chronic insomnia, all of these different components, trying to figure out how to build my business and be multi-passionate while having these kinds of things in the background. I really wanted to be able to still be productive. So that's really how I came about to develop my own productivity methodologies that I teach at this point to other people, because I really do think that like we can do a lot with our lives and our businesses, and we don't need to pigeonhole ourselves into one particular box. We don't need to force ourselves to not be multi-passionate if we are multi-passionate, and we don't have to let things like nightmare disorder or insomnia or anxiety prevent us from doing the things that we really want to do, right? So that's another side of why I wanted to get into productivity and why I was just sort of developing these over time. So that kind of just is what brings us to these last couple of years where productivity has been my main focus. And it was kind of funny, a couple of years ago when I shifted from general business consulting for freelancers to really productivity for sole proprietors, for teams, for organizations. When I made that shift, it was super interesting because I realized that I had already developed all of these methodologies that I was using myself, and I'd already been consulting and coaching on productivity for like basically since I started teaching about these types of things back in 2016, and I didn't even realize that this was like actually what I was focusing on. So it's been kind of funny. So that's in a nutshell how I kind of got into this line of work. I hope that kind of helps. And I wanted to just sort of give some wrap-up advice. And I can certainly expand on any of that. If any of you have like questions, you want me to dig in deeper, I can totally do that. But I wanted to give you pull out a few key pieces from that story so that you have advice for identifying your own niche. Again, especially if you are a coach or a consultant, that kind of thing. So I would really say to focus on what feels fun, and I don't want to say like easy, but what feels natural to you, right? Productivity feels like just such a good fit for me in a way that the other components in general business coaching didn't feel as natural, right? I could still do them. I could still teach about them. But it didn't feel like as easy and like straightforward and natural for me. So I would say focus on what is the most fun for you, what is the most natural. Keep in mind that basically any idea, if you really actually want it, can probably be turned into a business. Like there are so many different opportunities out there. So even if it feels like really strange and you're like, this can't be a thing, it's probably a thing, or you can make it a thing. Just because it's not a thing doesn't mean that you can't create it as something. So even if it feels like it's a totally out there sort of idea, still, it's still worth giving it a shot, at least exploring it a little bit and creating a strategy for it. So that's the first thing, is to pay attention to what feels fun and easy. Pay attention as well to what people are asking for and what they are getting the best results from when you work with them. Right? So again, you can actually start a little bit broader and then niche down if you even want to niche down. You might decide that you don't want to. But if you are trying to sort of figure out, is there a particular type of coaching or consulting that I should be doing? Is there a particular type of industry that I should be working on, or a particular type of person that would be like the best fit for me? Really pay attention to who are my clients? What kind of results are they getting? What am I ensuring that they're actually getting the best possible results for? What are they asking for? So I've only recently, added the organizations as like a main pillar of who I'm teaching productivity to, who I'm coaching for. So it used to be that my primary focus was teaching about productivity, doing coaching and consulting about productivity for freelancers and other sole proprietors. But when I was really looking into it, I realized that I get questions all the time from people with bricks and mortar businesses. I coached people with bricks and mortar businesses, florists, right? I've worked with a lot of project managers. I've worked with a lot of different people who actually work at organizations. And one of the things that I also found was that when I was presenting for doing different workshops for Editors Canada, some of the feedback from the editors who were attending it were like, well, this is great, this is really useful productivity information, but I wish it hadn't been so focused on freelancers because I work in-house. And I kept on getting these types of things come up again and again, where people were wanting me to create productivity systems and strategies and doing coaching and consulting for them based on their business, based on their organization, based on, the team work that they do, their leadership, all of that kind of thing. which is why I've added that component now. So really pay attention to what are people asking for, and are you getting them the results, right? And it was interesting to me because for a long time I was really resisting the idea of even doing productivity coaching and consulting for organizations because I was so focused on the freelancer thing, right? Like I had like little blinders on, like a little horse, right? And it was really interesting because when I actually took a step back and looked at it, I realized, oh, right, I have been working with all of these different people who work in business settings, who have employees, who manage teams, who work in, bricks and mortar, like all of these different types of things. And they are still getting amazing results, the same amazing results I'm able to get for my freelancer clients. So that was a really good indication for me that, okay, yes, this is definitely something that I should be adding. So those are kind of the two things, right? Pay attention to what feels fun and easy. Check what people are asking for, what you're getting the best results for. And then I would also say, of course, be strategic about it. Create a strategic action plan. You know that I'm going to tell you this. I'm a productivity strategist. Of course I'm going to tell you this. Create a strategic action plan with your base idea, right? You can do a business planning retreat to get all of your ideas out of your head onto paper, create that strategic plan, create a business plan for yourself, start moving forward with implementing your strategy, and then from there, you can really see, okay, this is what's working for me or this isn't working for me, this is what I want to shift, right? All of those different pieces. Okay. So I hope that this helps. If you want more on this, you've always got my Productivity Powerhouse e-course. Great option if you want sort of the full framework of how to figure out exactly what you want from your business and how to set those goals, prioritize those tasks, create a really awesome structure for your business and a really strategic action plan moving forward, and then being able to pivot with it. So I definitely recommend that. Visit saganmorrow.com/powerhouse, and I'll also drop the link down below. You can also DM me directly if you want more information about it. But Productivity Powerhouse, saganmorrow.com/powerhouse is a really great option as like a self-paced e-course, or you and I can always work together. So I have one-on-one productivity coaching options. And again, now I'm offering workshops to organizations and that kind of thing. So you can learn more about that at saganmorrow.com/services for all of the different types of services that I'm offering for organizations as well as individuals. And if you are a sole proprietor and you want that one-on-one sort of coaching, consulting, hybrid mix together where we can actually work through all of this sort of stuff, then just visit saganmorrow.com/workwithme. And all the links are in my bio as well. All right, I hope that this helps. And again, if you guys have any other questions about this kind of stuff, about how I got into this line of work, if you want me to get deeper into any of this, or if you have any follow-up questions on how you can apply this sort of information to your own situation, you can always drop me a comment below, shoot me a DM. I love chatting. All right, I'm gonna get back to my lovely setup here in the motel. Just a few days left, and then we'll be out. You guys, this has just been a whirlwind month. I can't believe that I've been living in a motel for literally 4 weeks. I'm actually the Roses from Schitt's Creek, except I'm just like Stevie, but All right. Bye.